you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Welcome back to Nexus at Night, everybody. This is a YouTube thing. I'm Atlas, and we're here talking about V to P transitions. Today we are talking about Aqua Force. I have Commanderjaime with me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. What's up, amigos? Commanderjaime here today on Nexus at Night.
Yeah. So, if you remember from our last episode where we talked about how to take a V premium list and turn it into a premium list with little amount of work possible outside of the G zone, we're going to take a look at how to do that with Aqua Force. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on here?
Yes, and so today I'm going to only cover Thavas, and for those who have a Thavas deck, what's really cool, the main deck will for the most part really stay the same, so you'll just have to add a couple cards of your choosing and then also a G zone at that point too. So if you play Thavas already, typically you're going to get a 5 to 6 attacks, because when you actually go into your Lambros on attack, you'll restand a column with a counterblast and soul blast. So that's way when you get the Excel circle, you get the first 3 attacks. This will be your 4th, restand something. Ideally you want to restand a Coral Assault where it gets power for every 4 other rested units that it sees together, right? Another attacker that extends is also Adelaide. So Adelaide is another way to get to the 6th attack much more easily. And you also can rely on units like Wheel Assault. Wow, that's small. But anyway, that swaps units back and forth so you get more attacks a lot easier too. So most part, that would still be the essence of the premium part. And I can translate and talk more into the premium side, so I'm gonna switch it over. So onto the premium one, as you can see, a lot of it's still the same, but I'm gonna note out some key cards. You want to go down to maybe 2 copies of Lambros, because you're not always going to pseudo stride from the main deck. More than likely, when you get to stride, you're gonna actually go into your stride turn. It's just more impactful and you have more options too. And so you can make more room for another grade 3, more of a tech option. A good option that's also pretty affordable is the Ruler Thavas from the G era. So this is mainly used as a rear guard, where on the 1st or 4th battle, it can actually counterblast at the end of the battle to restand once more, so you get more attacks. This can be well timed with one of the strides that I'll mention later on to Alexandros, so you can capitalize on that and have pressure.
Ruler Thavas is usually like just a 1-off, right? Like here.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is it running someone around the time of recording this in August of 2022?
Less than $1, actually.
Okay, so that's a pretty easy thing to pick up without it really hurting your wallet. It's a 1 extra grade 3 that you can find in your couch. So yeah, sorry.
On your couch. That's a good point too. Yeah. And you can. It's also another way to ride too, because I know Thavas before has. This is like the main Thavas that you still want to ride because of the Excel circle. But before it would struggle because you only have Lambros, and that's a grade 4. You can't really ride that. So that's why having like a 5th grade 3 might be helpful. And in this case, Ruler Thavas might come up in those matchups too. You know, going back a little bit too, it also has the Vanguard skill where it can give units resist. So when you do stride, you can give like Tidal Assault, Coral Assault, cards like that, Pursuit Assault, resist. So it can help deal a little bit better with those matchups. But most of the time, and I'll explain later with a stride, you'll start really expanding your Excel circles where it isn't as important to give something resist because you have so many rear guards to work with.
Right.
So, yep.
I noticed Tidal Assault in the top right.
Yes. So for those that may not know, this is the OG title. What's really nice is that at the end of the battle, it attack the Vanguard, it just restands but minus 5k. So it's a free restander. Ultimately, you have strides that give power to rear guards. So this ultimately will get bigger and bigger. And you can put this on an Excel circle as well. So it's even more power. So it's just one of those finishing rear guards that can attack twice at least. And you can stack triggers on it, especially critical triggers. That's what makes Tidal really deadly too as well. Another card to really mention, besides Coral Assault is still important, but Pursuit Assault is still important in premium. I think it's even more important because it's another beater. It gets 5k for every additional circle, so you will still scale Excel circles over time. And also, it's your way to draw advantage. It's also your way to rest Narissa. And Narissa can Soul Blast to restand itself. Actually, let me select Narissa so it's a lot easier. It gets power, and it can be another attacker. It could be a booster that you can use even on your stride turns. So that's why even Pursuit Assault comes in premium as well. You still play some of the great ones for consistency reasons, like Nikki. I have the 4V Nikki, but you could play the G-Era Nikki as well. I was just thinking of that right now, where it can search the Thavas too more easily, but this helps like recycle pieces too. So if you need to recycle your Lambroses, or maybe other regards like a Ruler Thavas or a Title Assault that potentially you could draw into later after you shuffle your deck. Yeah. So it's nice, and it helps build a soul, especially if you're going to rely on Pursuit Assault and Narissa as well, because they use up the soul with their skills. And then also when you're writing up, it's a consistency boost too, so you're able to get Dennis, which we do play a few, and also your V Thavas too, which is more important too.
I was gonna say like your what's his name, the Blue Wave top 5 grab a grade 3
Baradios.
Yep. Baradios, thank you. So that's yet another way to check top 5. You can grab your Thavas. Another thing to note for V premium players going to premium, it is almost always a good thing to grab a heal guardian. Mm-hmm. Because G Guardians, which we will get to when we get to the G Zone, are very important. Now, in Aqua Force, they suck, but that's neither here nor there. But just keep that in mind when you use Baradios, or as we go through more of these clans, you're going to see more of like that version of the card for each clan, like as it comes up. So definitely, just like a playstyle thing to think of.
Yeah, and it's still very important, just like in V Premium in the early game, when you need a grade 3 heal to survive if you're going second too. Like if you're facing Gurgowitz, Kagero, Alambros, Mare, like that. So it's just really nice to grab those heals. You can also search any tech grade 3s that you put in as well.
Right.
And sometimes that enables your turn. You may not open with a Ruler Thavas, for example, but then when you place Baradios, you can grab it and then immediately use it, and it helps your formation be better too. I've had those moments. Another great one that kind of helps fulfill the role is Wheel Assault. Like you can ride it to get power and call something, but ultimately it extends more battles, and as you start building your field, it's a free way to swap things around too. So I feel like Wheel Assault still has importance, and it's a 10k shield too is a great one.
V premium players, the over trigger. It is something. So this is getting reprinted pretty soon. All of the over triggers.
Thank God.
Thank God. But also currently lobbying to try and get it banned from premium. This is kind of expensive at the time of recording this, but in the next few months probably not. You can always use the Cray Elemental one. That's super cheap because they printed it 8,000 times.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I think either way is fine too. With Aqua Force, you'll extend more of the Excel circles, so that 200 million or that 100 million times 2 can still be beneficial.
Right.
I feel Blessed Favor is really nice because it's literally every trigger that you have access to: a front, a draw, a heal, crit. The way I look at it too is that in my ratios for triggers, it's like the extra draw. It's also the extra crit, or the extra heal. So you get to see a little more of those benefits. So just like you alluded to with the grade 3 Baradios grabbing grade 3s, even if you grab like a grade 3 heal, you're like, oh crap, I just took a heal out of my deck, now I can't really heal. You still have the over trigger to do so, even if you check it offensively. You definitely still want to use these. These are also important because they're grade 3s, which you can pay the cost of stride with.
Yes, in a pinch if you have to.
Yes. Worst case scenario. Also worth noting, the Lambros, if you do draw into this, I know V Premium, it does suck. But in Premium, you can discard this as well for the cost of stride too. It still counts as a grade 3, even if it has the hand skill, which is really appreciative.
G-Zone time?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
otherwise we'll get into more. Yep. Yeah. The G-Zone, so here's 9 times out of 10, you're going to go into Jumbled. And what this does is that first, when it's placed, check top 7, call 2 cards from that as rested. This helps start building a field easily. Aqua Force sometimes need resources to build resources, but this card helps build upon from it easier. And then when it attacks, you can Counterblast 1, flip something in the G-Zone. Most of the time, you'll flip Gophelia, because she has a G-Zone skill that you can use later. And Jumbo will draw you cards, retire your opponent's cards, and then of course be able to restand 2 rear guards, which can be Coral Assaults, Pursuit Assaults, you name it. This card is just advantageous and it does a little bit of everything, so more than likely this will be your first stride 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And you understand that, Atlas?
I was just gonna say, like, one downside is that it's about $15 at the time of recording this. Luckily, you only need 2 of them. I think you can get away with 1, right?
You can get away with 1 if you're starting off, but I would invest into a second one because there are odd situations that it can come up.
Yeah, probably the most expensive thing here, aside from a certain spiny boy at the bottom there. But
other notable strides would be like Alexandros. Having a copy or 2 would be super helpful. This is where Ruler Thavas can shine too because of the patterns. This has to attack the 3rd or 2nd battle, and Thavas has to be the 4th battle.
Right.
So this gives power to the rear guards plus 5k for every face-up card in the G zone. So even G guards that you flip or G guard with, those count up too. So this can help you put the nail in the coffin, and it can also be used on Untitled Assault to make it even more threatening too. If you want to go more of a, let's say you don't like over triggers, or if your opponent's at low damage, a safe bet would be Valeos, the stride. So when it attacks, it can kind of blast 1, flip anything, and then if you have essentially 2 or more, it'll lock them at 11k while calling cards and drawing as well. So this puts your opponent locked at 11k, so any triggers, including the over trigger, will be nullified on the Vanguard, for example. If you attack first, poke, and they get triggers, this brings it back down to 11k as well.
Yes.
So
I just did this earlier today, and it's a friend. I did Terrific Coil. Restand. He took it, got a trigger on damage. Valeos called a board, redrew a hand, and then he was stuck at 11 for the rest of the turn. It was a good time.
Yes, and you can really start gauging where like each attack is either 1 card or a damage. And it makes that math simpler in your head too. Yeah,
in general, I think Aqua Force is a good, like, it sounds complicated, but it's a good way to teach newer players because it literally goes, okay, this works on the 1st one, this works on the 3rd one, this works on the 4th one, so like you kind of know which order to go in.
Yes.
And it helps you think.
There's attack patterns that it has to follow, and so it forces people to think that way too. One of the newer strides is from the P-Clan Collection 2022 is the Ferragus Dragon. So what's really cool about this is that at the end of the battle, counterblast 1, flip something, you get an imaginary gift Excel circle. So that's where you could start seeing your Excel circle scaling to, even on stride turns. And it stands any number of rear guards equal to the cards face up in your G zone. So if you have 4 face up, you restand 4 rear guards. And if you have your columns and 2 Excel circles, that means 4 more attacks in that example. And this is good against like disruptive plays because in premium there's decks that can actually retire, bind, stun during your turn while you're trying to attack. So this card kind of helps deal with that too. Do you want to go?
I was just going to say, for examples of that, check out our video about all the different decks that can do disruptive plays on the opponent's turn. Link in the description. Continue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what's cool is that it also has the additional effect where it can choose one of your rear guards and move it to an open additional circle, which you'll create, and it gets plus 10k. So that's a way to know to buff up a rear guard without depending on triggers too. So like a Tidal Assault or a Rule of Buff.
It keeps the buff too, for those wondering, because it's moved while still on board.
That's a good point. You can stack, move it, and it gets even bigger because it'll be on an Excel circle too. Good point. Very good point. Let's see. I guess, Lambros is a little more costly right now.
I looked it up. It was $30. I was wrong.
Ultimately, you can live without Lambros, but it's there for if you don't have any counterblasts, and you can easily get to the 4th battle because you have Excel circles, and it can still give power up to rear guard. So it's good to have a pair. And more onto another costly stride would be the ultimate stride, Megiddo. It's good just to have one just in case. It doesn't come up as often as I would hope for, but just having one in your G zone for those niche situations is pretty helpful.
What would you recommend if someone doesn't want to put down the cash for Megiddo?
I would get something else. So for example, any of the other strides, or maybe like a Cray Elemental G-Guard like Dismal, if they want to invest more of their money. I know Dismal might be up there too. I'm not sure.
For Lambros, I guess Commander Thavas, since it still fulfills that role of like you don't need Counterblast for it to work.
Yeah, I would say Commander Thavas because it's free. Yeah, because the other one would be Wailing, but then you're back to the Counterblast issue. Yeah. And kind of what I alluded to with Gyphelia. So the reason that you flip this is because the G-Zone skill is so less one. Put this face down, and you can either countercharge or unlock, or you can undelete your Vanguard, essentially.
That's pretty cool.
So it has a lot of utility. Most of the time I have one face up because in case your opponent tries to damage deny you, and you can countercharge this way, and then you can kind of go your place.
Yeah. Definite 2 of, I think, at least.
The second one is in case you do need to use the shield value, because it's a second or third battle plus 5k, so it's a 20k shield. You'll realize with Aqua Force that even their G-Guards are wave or battle restricted, so like this one's wave 1, and then for time or more, it gets plus 10k. So your opponent may attack you in certain ways where it can be the weakest shield value for you, so you just be cognizant of that. In a card that, 2 cards that really help out with that is Ionis. This is a GB1 G-Guard, so you already had to have something face up in the G-Zone, but you flip another G-Guard and choose up to 5 of your rear guards, and it gets plus 5k for each of them that you choose. And this is your biggest shield consistently. And Thavas naturally wants you to build a field to a certain point, so this is always pretty much live. You just had to be cautious of the counterblast.
And then it also flips something, and also, one thing to remember with G-Guards is you can only G-Guard if you have 3 or less face up in G-Zone, which means because she flips one, that puts you one step closer, which is also where Ionis comes in handy, because you can flip it and then put it back down on your turn.
Yeah, the Gyphelia.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, that's Ionis.
Yeah. It refunds the counterblast too, but it also gives you access to the shield. So if your case, you're wondering why would you do that, but for that reason. And then the last one that's also helpful is that, you know, when this is 4th battle or more, it gets plus 20k. So if you want a bigger shield and you're willing to use the counterblast, that's what this is for. Unfortunately, the first battle skill doesn't come up as often. It just gives one of your units plus 5k. Usually you want to put it on the Vanguard, but it just doesn't come up as often as I would hope.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say, Atlas?
No, that was pretty much it. We'll have the deck logs for these in the description, so if you want to just go look at the list where it's not tiny on your YouTube screen or looking at it on your phone or whatever, leave a like, leave a comment. I'll have Commanderjaime's all your stuff in the description also. And that was pretty much it. In the comments, what clan do you want to see next? What do you want to see me cover next? I recorded the first 2 at the same time, so yeah. What do you want to see next? Let us know, and tell a friend, leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff.
And subscribe.
Sorry, I'm used to the podcast version of that. Bye, everyone.